G'day legends, and welcome to this first ever episode of a little cricket mentoring talk show. We're naming it Declared for now, but we're open to ideas of other names as well. So I'm Tom Scollay, or known as Scolls. I've got Blake Reed or Reedy here with me, and we're just going to be chatting a bit about what's going on in world cricket. There's so much cricket going on around the world at the moment, so we thought we'd just touch on a few different little things, what we're seeing, what's going on in the world of cricket. But before we start that, I'm sitting with one of the most informed batters in Western Australian grade cricket at the moment, Reedy, here. He's scored 3 centuries in his past 4 innings, scores of 148 not out, 115 retired and 112. Reedy, what is the magic formula? What is sort of driving your recent success?
It's tough to put a finger on it exactly, but the main thing for me is probably knowing my own game a lot more. I guess once you sort of narrow things down a bit for yourself and take the pressure off yourself, it's a lot easier just to execute and sort of score when those balls come. But and it's also getting off strike a lot more. To spin has been a huge one for me. Not getting so bogged down, particularly in the 2 one-dayers. That was huge through the middle period for me. And another big one is probably trying not to worry about how I'm hitting him at training, not letting that transfer out into the middle. Sort of going out on a Saturday and knowing that I'm in good form and just trying to trust that as much as I can. And going back to telling myself just to try and bat for hours, and instead of trying to be something I'm not, which I probably got caught up in, trying to score faster and all that sort of stuff. Going back to my ways of just letting the game come to me a bit more, and it's worked out.
So a few things there. You've always been someone, and obviously we played a lot of cricket together, you've always been someone who's able to bat for a long period of time, and would you say you probably went away from that and tried to just be too dynamic, tried to score too quickly, but that wasn't your game? You've like you've said, you've come back in, and now your big focus is on just accumulating, letting the scoreboard look after itself.
I probably got sort of opening the batting, got too boundary conscious, and it was sort of dot, try and hit a 4 kind of thing. Whereas I've found that sort of 1s, 2s, 3s, 4, like just manipulating the field a bit more, and it sort of adds up a lot quicker than that, and releases so much pressure. I probably wasn't focused on wasn't focused on sort of the right things when I was trying to be more positive. That's because I had various people telling me I needed to score faster and play a certain way, but going back to what works for me has helped a lot. So
and that's something that's hugely important, is to always try and understand what works for you and then build your game around that, not try and be something you're not. One more thing on that, which you touched on, what have you done differently in your preparation or your focus to allow you to score more off spin?
Just really sort of narrowing down to like a few scoring areas, and sort of just executing those. Getting back to spin a lot has been a big one for me. Cutting and pulling, turning decent balls into scoring opportunities just to get off strike, and sort of just not letting them bowl to me. I used to let them just bowl, and then hope and try and whack one out of nowhere. But it's been sort of a positive change for me, and as I said, when the runs start ticking over so much easier and through the middle overs, releases a lot of pressure.
We've sort of had a big sort of focus with our players recently, and I know obviously Blake has with his players he works with on being able to use the depth of your crease and hit the ball on the top of its bounce. So Reedy sort of took that advice on when I started coaching it to the athletes I work with, and it's sort of really helped his game. He said in the past about just getting back and cutting and pulling the spinners on the top of its bounce rather than just lunging forward and blocking that length ball. We had a question on YouTube. Someone said, how have you stayed grounded? And my sort of add-on to that is, how have you stayed hungry to score runs. Last weekend you went out to bat, you were coming off 200 in 3 games, and yet you went and got another 100. What's driving you, and how have you stayed grounded throughout this period?
I guess confidence helps. Like after the first one, like that was my first 100 in quite a long time, and that gave me a blueprint of how I needed to play in both formats, and just having that there, and then like in the back of my mind, and just sort of knowing if I bat for a few hours, I'm going to play like that. That's going to get the job done for me. So, and yeah, at training I haven't really done much differently. I've been a lot more relaxed and just trying to trust that. Yeah, I'm hitting them well. But trying to avoid like worrying about the nets, because that's been probably a big problem for me as a junior, especially trying to be perfect, and that was very restricting on me mentally as well. So having that blueprint and just sort of trying to bat time and stick to that has been the main thing. As in terms of staying grounded, as you said, I love batting for time, and it's just been about sticking to that. And while you get lots of messages of support and stuff, it's nice, but if you want to do anything in your cricket, the good players, they make thousands of runs if they're in good nick. So that's just been the main goal for me, is to try and sort of knock the door down to play at a high level.
Yeah, and that's something we've spoken about a lot over the last few weeks, is make this period count. You don't know when sort of you get out of form or things don't go your way, and we've spoken a lot about really making this count. It's something that Adam Voger said to me, a friend of ours, a former teammate of ours, years and years ago, is that every single player fails, every single player has bad days and bad periods, but you might still end up averaging 50 or 60 plus, whatever, a very, very good average, because you make your good days really good. You get those big hundreds, and that's certainly something you're doing at the moment. Reedy's got 600 runs for the season at an average of 75, which is the third highest runs in the competition, and hopefully he's not done there yet with a few games to go. So awesome to have a little insight into what's making Reedy so successful at the moment. So guys, we're gonna move on now to chat a bit about world cricket, and we're going to start in our own backyard here, the Big Bash. It's getting to the pointy end of the season. It's very, very exciting. The Sydney Sixers have already booked their place in the final this Saturday, and they will be playing against either the Thunder or the Melbourne Stars, who have sort of fallen off the rails a bit recently.
Yeah, I think it sums up that I hear a lot of the ex-players say that it doesn't matter how you're going at the start of the tournament. It's all about momentum in T20s, and it is just couldn't be more true in this situation. With the Stars now, they're missing a couple of players, and then just form is slightly going. I reckon they just start a bit of doubt crept in, and then it's hung there. So
well, I think they've lost their last 4 games, and they were so reliant on Maxwell early in the tournament. He won them a few games, and then Stoinis has been the standout batsman of the tournament. He's been exceptional, and if those two haven't sort of got the runs, it seems like the other guys haven't quite chipped in. Hopefully, from my point of view, Nick Maddinson has a big semi-final and final. He's a friend of mine, and the Stars will be hoping that Peter Hansen comes to the party, and Nick Larkin and those sort of batters who probably haven't played the match-winning innings they need. Great to see Clint Hinchcliffe, a Perth boy who hasn't had too many opportunities in the past, doing well. Obviously, we play against him, but he's someone who I admire, and he's doing quite well with both bat and ball at the moment. But the Thunder have been the surprising packet in the last few weeks, haven't they?
Yeah, they've relying on some good experienced players. Like the Ferguson's been fairly consistent. Sam's as well with the ball is got the golden cap, or that's what you call it, isn't it? The golden cap. So, and he's executed well under pressure for them. So I think, they have been a bit of a surprise. I think Hales has been a good aggressive option up the top to go with Khawaja. And then they've sort of batted around a couple of guys and managed to get it done. Really, that you wouldn't say they're an explosive team, but they defend well. I think that's a big key, especially on the slower decks. They're suited to the Sydney wickets. So
they take pace off the ball well, and I think Hales has been massive in the last few must-win games. They had to win against the Scorchers in a rain-affected match. Then they had to obviously knockout match against Hobart, and then the last match against Strikers again. it's all do or die for them, and Hales has come to the party. I think the best players stand up under pressure generally, some not always, you can't do it every time, but Hales has certainly proven his class in the last few weeks. Now moving on to the team of the tournament, which cricket.com.au has published recently. What are your thoughts on that?
As I touched on there, I think the main thing out of it is experience seems to be winning matches for all teams. I look at Wells, Siddle, Ferguson and Sams, as I said, that they've, in the clutch, they sort of step up. Wells in particular and Siddle at the death have been, next level really. So, cricket's sort of going in a full circle where the youth isn't always the answer. The ones that whack it out of the park, it's sort of having a good head on your shoulders and executing when you need it, I think, is the main key and reasons that they're doing well. Yeah,
you can't buy experience, as I say. So those who haven't seen it, team of the tournament: Stoinis, Josh Inglis from the Scorchers, Matthew Wade from the Hurricanes, Glenn Maxwell, captain from the Stars, obviously. Our man, John Wells from the Strikers, Mitch Marsh, a good friend as well, from the Scorchers, Tom Curran from the Sixers, Rashid Khan from the Strikers, Daniel Sams from the Thunder, Peter Siddle from the Strikers, and Hasif Ralph from the Stars, who's got a beautiful story and has done very well for the Stars, coming from nowhere really. Unfortunately, our boy, also our ambassador, Josh Philippe, didn't quite make it, but he's been outstanding as well. We've got sort of two ambassadors for cricket mentoring in the Big Bash. John Wells, who's the third most on the runs with 478 runs at an average of 68 and a strike rate of 135.41. And then Josh Philippe is fifth on the most runs with 435 runs at an average of 36 and a strike rate of 125. So Flip, a little unlucky not to make the team of the carnival, but as Reedy said there, that it's a pretty experienced team of the carnival, and there were some unlucky guys not to make it, but Australia would do pretty well with that sort of lineup. And Matty Wade did well, only playing a handful of games, I think.
Yeah, well, Wade's always suited to this format. I think he just plays with so much freedom, no fear of losing his wicket, and it pays off more often than not. It's good to see Mitch Marsh firing again, because that's good for Australian cricket, I think. It'd be interesting if they give Wellsy a go in the Australian squad. I think he deserves a crack. But he's played big names he's got to get past.
He's played that specialist number 5 role incredibly well all season, and it's not something that everyone can do. It's a pretty sort of specific spot to come in, whatever the situation, whether it's the last 3 overs and you've got to whack it out the park, or whether it's rebuilding after 3 for not many. He's done it incredibly well time and time again, not this year, but over the last few years. So it would be awesome to see him get an opportunity, higher honours for Australia, and also hopefully our boy Flip will get an opportunity as well, who he had a pretty quiet period throughout the middle, but then came good, and he's really been flourishing. As soon as Steve Smith came back in the side, Flip has been excellent. And on that note, the Sixers are going to be so hard to beat. I remember saying it to a few guys a little while ago. With Smith, Lyon, Hazelwood back in their side, and then you add in Vince and Curran as they're overseas, Flip's firing.
Yeah.
Abbott and Dorcius are great bowlers and hard to get away. Daniel Hughes and Moses and Reeks, extremely experienced. I think they're going to be so tough to beat in Sydney this Saturday. But if anyone's going to do it, it might be the Stars with Maxwell and Stoinis and co.
And I think having Harris Ralph back for the Stars is huge. You can't. Yeah, the quick bowlers don't get any slower. Like they're always put you under pressure, no matter who you are. So, and I think he's a good return. Has he been back for 1 or 2?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I think he'll make a big difference for them.
Yeah. Now moving on, as we've said, so much cricket going on around the world. We're going to talk about the Under-19 World Cup. This is the sort of demographic we sort of follow quite closely with all the athletes we work with here in Perth and around the world. So we've got the semi-finals coming up between India and Pakistan, and then New Zealand and Bangladesh, which we're going to talk about shortly. But the Aussies have had an up and down tournament. They started poorly with a loss against the West Indies, which was pretty unexpected. They then won their next couple as they scraped over the line against England when they probably shouldn't have won, thanks to Connor Sully at the end, to make the quarterfinals. They lost another reasonably close one against India, which probably was expected. India are generally the powerhouse of under-19 cricket. And then overnight, the Aussies scraped over the line yet again. They kept Afghanistan under-19s to 7th, 191 off 50 overs. and the Aussies got it with 1 ball to spare. Tanveer Sangha, the absolute star of the show, 4 for 41 off his 10, bowling his leggies, and then 46 not out of 40 balls. That's a pretty good game, that.
Yeah, no, that's very handy, and it's been interesting. The close games that Australia have been in have come down to that middle to lower order. I guess that's been a bit disappointing from the top order not taking all the responsibility there, but in the run chases and whatnot. But it's interesting there that some of their lower order players have been able to execute and get it done at the back end.
And that's been a theme. New Zealand beat the West Indies to qualify for the semi-final with 2 balls to spare. They were 8 for 153, chasing the West Indies 238. And then number 9, Joey Field, 38 not out of 58. And then number 10, Christian Clark, 46 not out of 42. Got them home. So guys, if you're younger and you're watching this, you're listening to this, you have to be an all-rounder in this day and age.
Yep.
If you bowl, you have to be able to bat. Bowlers who bat 8, 9, 10, 11 win games for teams these days. The batters often go hard at the top. They might be more inconsistent than in the past, but bowlers are expected to bat, and batters that can bowl are just as valuable. So everyone needs to be, young cricketers need to be working on their second and third skill, don't they?
Yeah, and we see it every single week in grade cricket. When it always comes after a long day, 90 over days we play, and it gets down to the 80th, and all of a sudden we need 3 wickets or something, and the batting team might only need 30 runs, but you need them to be able to bat and perform for you. And we've seen lots of collapses happen, particularly in Melbourne v Perth, that game. But it's amazing how often it comes down to those last few.
It does. And just for those watching or listening, when I played Reedy earlier in the season, his side were 4 wickets down, needing 3 to win. Yeah. And we took 6 for none off 6 balls to get us home. So that was one of the more remarkable games of cricket we've both been involved in. Awesome from my point of view. Yeah. Terrible from his point of view. But yeah, something we'll look back on and just think, wow, what happened there. And for the Aussies, Mackenzie Harvey got a half century early in the tournament, but has been pretty disappointing since then. Obviously, contracted player with Victoria and the captain, so hopefully he'll stand up in the last game. Ollie Davies, after whacking Canada around in the warm-up game, an unbelievable innings of 90 odd off 27 balls. Hasn't done too much, but hopefully those two get some runs in the last game. Sam Fanning, my Perth teammate, has stood up in the last couple of games against India, a very hard-fought 75 and then 62 last night against Afghanistan. And great to see young Cooper Conley, another Perth guy who's got so much potential, so much ahead of him, get a game last night, bowled a few overs and spent a little bit of time in the middle. So he's going to be better for it. He's going to come back with a month's worth of knowledge and know what to do for the next World Cup, which he's eligible for. So it'd be great to see who sort of what happens from here. I imagine India will probably win the tournament. They're a pretty amazing side, pretty strong side, the India under-19. So who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, I think India's depth in their cricket network is just phenomenal. So, and all their batters come in with so much experience already, technically so sound, and very tough, especially with white ball cricket. They're just very tough to get through. Yeah,
they seem to produce technically correct batsmen and fast bowlers and exceptional spinners, and it might be because they've got millions and millions of people playing cricket. That's their culture, it's their religion, it's what they love, so they've got so much sort of talent, let's call it, or skilled players to choose from compared to other countries, but they are just producing so many phenomenal cricketers, and it just shows that it means that India is going to be top of world cricket for a very long time. They're going to be hard to beat for the near future at least. So moving on to the women's triangular series going on at the moment. Women's cricket is going gangbusters around the world, and there's a great little triangular series going on here in Australia between Australia, England and India, and we've seen some great matches so far. India got over the line against England a few days ago, and then on Saturday when I was playing club cricket, we were sitting in the the club rooms at lunchtime, and Australia, when we first came in, we had a 30-minute break, were down and out. They were 6 or 7 down, needing about 50 off 4 or 5 overs, and they got it to a super over. It was a huge effort by the lower order. Annabelle Sutherland making her debut, got 22 not out and played beautifully, combined with a few other tail. And again, it comes back to the tail being able to bat, everyone having to chip in and do their role. Yep. Got it to a super over. And super overs have been a theme recently with obviously the World Cup final a little while ago, but then so many super overs in the India versus New Zealand series. But an awesome match, awesome for cricket, awesome for women's cricket. England got over the line in the end, pretty comfortably in the super over. They dominated, but Elise Perry has been unbelievable. 1 for 9 off 4 overs in that game. How good's she going?
Yeah, no, she's next level. She sort of never panics no matter what situation, bat or ball, and sort of the game sort of evolves around her. And I think, yeah, she just knows her game, and that doesn't leave that. Doesn't try and be too expansive, and make sure that she's the one getting the job done, and taking responsibility. I think Australia's depth is going, like, they're relying on their depth at the moment. I don't think they're firing to their full potential, which is pretty scary, and a good sign for the World Cup coming up. So I think they'll be hard to beat.
Well, Alyssa Healy hasn't got any runs yet, and she's obviously one of the best players in the world. Meg Lanning missed the last game, didn't get in the first, so if those two start firing, as you say, Australia will be very hard to beat. They're the reigning world champions, and really sort of, I hope I'm right in saying that, they might not be actually, but they are going to be very hard to beat. And then the next day, Australia beat India with, again, Elise Perry, the star. 1 for 13 off 4 overs. What amazing figures they are, backing up 1 for 9 off 4 overs, and then she got runs to go with it. What a complete cricketer she is.
Yeah, I think I watched a bit of that innings, and with the state of the game where that was, there was no real scoreboard pressure, I think, because they bowled well in the first innings, and some other players still panicked and went away from their games, but she just knocked it around, and yeah, as I said, she was just hungry to be there at the end and win it for the team. So, and
she just, like you said before, she just wants to be in the game, whether it's with the ball or with the bat or in the field. She just wants to be in the game. And the best players, I think, they don't fear failure. They're not scared of making a mistake in the heat of the moment. They want to be in the game. They accept that they might get it wrong. They accept they might make a mistake, but they really want to be in the game, and that's what allows them to succeed. That's what allows them to play at their best when the pressure's on. They're not thinking about the negative, they're thinking about the positive, and Elise Perry certainly does that. And she was 49 when they were chasing only 103, and definitely got them home. They wouldn't have got home without her. So really interesting little series, probably the 3 best sides in women's cricket, India, Australia and England. So you'd imagine there'll be some close matches between them throughout the World Cup, and it could be won by anyone. Whoever shows up on the day, whoever shows up in the weeks of the tournament is going to win the tournament. So it's all well and good to play well leading into it, but on the day it's whoever the better team is. And on that note, a little shout out to Tanya Bhatia, who's the wicketkeeper for the India team. We met Tanya when we were in India in April last year. Did a little bit of work with her, did some work on her batting, and watched her train with her keeping at the Carnatic Institute of Cricket. So good luck to her. We really wish her well and hope she has a really good series and World Cup. Moving on to, I think some of our listeners and viewers will be wondering why we haven't spoken about this already, but India versus New Zealand, and gee, India were dominant, weren't they?
Yeah, they were clinical again. I think, their white ball dominance goes back to they're technically so sound, and the white balls doesn't do much on flat pitches. Yeah, they just trust themselves so much that it's very hard to dismiss them. But their bowlers seem to be executing way more than anyone else with the white ball. So I think that's the big difference there. But when it comes down to it in the super overs, they just know how to do it. They're so good at executing. I don't know. It's just I guess they play like IPL. They've done it all so much, so often, and I think it shows massively compared to New Zealand, who have lost 4 super overs in a row or something ridiculous.
You've got a feel for New Zealand, obviously losing the World Cup in the final in the fashion they did, and then to be sort of go down in 2 super overs in this tournament was. You got to feel for them, but like you say, India, no matter who the playing 11 are, and they seem to bring guys in for different series. They seem to have new faces all the time. They're trying new bowlers and new middle order batters. No matter who it is, they just seem to get the job done, and that goes back to their depth. India just is a production line of world-class cricketers, and I think the IPL does have a huge impact on that. They play so much cricket with all the other best players in the world coming into their backyard, and they learn from them. you've got 4 overseas players per match, but then you've got the others that aren't playing, and they can feed, the young Indians can feed off them and learn off them. And whoever it is that comes in just knows how to do it. And even without Kohli in the final game, India were just too strong. And they had Bumrah come and find his form towards the end of the tournament. Started poorly, but obviously came back and showed his class as the best players do. But KL Rahul, he's been huge. He's been talked about a lot, it seems, lately. He bats in the middle, he bats number 3, he bats at the top, his wicket keeps when needed. And in the final game when Kohli wasn't playing and then Rohit Sharma retired hurt and was injured, KL Rahul took over the captaincy, and it probably shows the responsibility and the leadership he's had over the last few years, and he's becoming one hell of a player.
Yeah, well, we were lucky enough to watch him play for Punjab Kings 11 in the IPL, and watching him live, I think, is he captain that team as well? So
he might have been, yeah.
I think he captains that team as well. So he's gaining lots of experience there. But I remember watching him bat, him in particular, and seeing how late he plays the ball and how much time he has against the quickest bowlers you can think of was like mind blowing, and makes it look very easy. But yeah, he's going to be. I think he's cemented his spot. He's had to do a lot of hard work and sort of, as we said, that there's so many guys competing for one spot in that side for 5 years to even get a chance, and they will have to make mountains and mountains of runs, and I think he's finally cracked it and will stay there.
Yeah, well,
to bat. Well, when Dhawan is done, he will be there for the rest.
Yeah, he's so versatile. Wherever it is, he's incredibly versatile. And finished the series 224 runs at an average of 56 and a strike rate of 144. The most ever I saw somewhere by a individual in a bilateral series. So yeah, huge tournament from KL Rahul. Now, one little controversial topic to finish us off, and guys, I hope you've enjoyed this format. Let us know what you think. Love to hear your feedback in the comments below. Let us know what you want us to talk about, what's going on in the world, if we want to answer a few questions, etc. But there was a controversial run out in the Under-19 World Cup. For those of you that don't know, someone was man-catted, backing up. And it's divided the cricket world yet again. Some people think it's fine because it's within the rules of the game. Some people think it's not right because it's not within the spirit of the game. So it's a bit of a grey area. What are your thoughts on that, Reedy?
No, I think it's poor for cricket. And I think it's a bit of a failure in the underage system if people think it's all right to do that. And I think they've even got to come up with a rule, sort of, making it clear if it's right or wrong, or just get rid of it all completely, like just bin it forever, because it's not a nice thing to see. It's
not a nice thing. However, the other side of the argument is Mitchell Johnson wrote a tweet and said that he's spoken about this in the past when it's happened, that why should batters be allowed to back up too far?
Yep.
That's cheating in his mind. So I suppose like I said, there's two arguments to it, but the fact that there's a grey area, it's in the rules to be able to do it, to be able to run them out, but it's not within the spirit of the game. And the spirit of the game is something that everyone respects immensely, and it's something that's upheld very well, and that's probably one of the unique things about cricket. Is that we play within the spirit, but sometimes not within the rules and whatever. But
I do agree though that there needs to be some way to restrict batters from also getting the half a pitch head start when it's at the end of an innings. I think there's something needs to be done. I don't know how or what it is, but it's a tricky situation.
It needs to be discussed because it creates controversy, it creates friction, it creates unhappiness, and that's not something we want in this great game. We've just had we're here in my kitchen, we've just had the washing machine going on, dishwasher going on in the background, so hopefully that hasn't made the sound too bad, but we're just keeping it raw and real here for you guys at Cricket Mentoring. So on that note, that is the world of cricket. We've spoken for about half an hour, so hopefully you guys have found that interesting, got some value out of that. Scolls and Reedy here just trying to share our thoughts and opinions. We might dive a little bit deeper into certain things in the future, but hopefully you've enjoyed our little discussion, our little chat, to be put on YouTube and also onto a podcast. So if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to our podcast. Please check out our website, cricketmentoring.com. Check out our Instagram if you haven't done so. And we're just here to give you guys value and help you become the best you can be on and off the field. So Reedy, thanks for joining me.
My pleasure, mate.
And legends, get it done. Keep working hard, back yourself, believe in yourself, and we'll see you soon.